If you've ever run GPC for polymer analysis, you already know it can be both powerful and a little unforgiving. One wrong assumption about solubility or calibration, and suddenly your polymer looks like it's 10 kilodaltons when it's really 200. In this video, we're going to look at the top 5 GPC mistakes researchers make and how you can avoid them to get clean, publishable molecular weight data every time. For polymer scientists, GPC isn't just another characterization technique. It's how we confirm whether our synthesis worked the way we planned. It gives us MN and MW, which define the polymer's molecular weight averages. Dispersity, which tells us how broad the molecular weight distribution is. And even information about branching that influences mechanical and thermal properties. But here's the challenge. GPC is sensitive to small details. A minor mistake early in the workflow can produce molecular weights that look precise but aren't actually accurate. And that brings us to why the next 5 mistakes matter so much. Mistake number 1 is all about solvents, and it's probably the most common one. Too many runs start with the solvent we had available, instead of the solvent that actually dissolves the polymer. Partial or poor dissolution leads to aggregation, and aggregation looks identical to low molecular weight on a GPC trace. For example, PEG in water or PS in chlorobenzene behave beautifully, while proteins in organic solvents or fluoropolymers in water are essentially doomed from the start. So how do you check? Techniques like DLS, visual inspection, and simple filtration tests can tell you a lot about solubility before you ever inject a sample. The takeaway: always match solvent polarity and chemistry to the polymer, and confirm dissolution before calibration and injection. The second mistake hides in plain sight: skipping proper filtration. Just because a solution looks clear doesn't mean it's clean. A few microscopic particulates can spike column pressure or even permanently damage the packing material. But it's not just whether you filter, it's also what you filter with. A 0.2 micron PTFE filter behaves very differently from a 0.45 micron nylon filter, especially when your polymer is sticky, charged, or high in molecular weight. Using the right filter can be the difference between smooth, reproducible chromatograms and a very expensive column replacement. When in doubt, use low-binding 0.2 micron filters and check for polymer loss during method development. The third mistake is one that even experienced labs make: calibration mismatch. Most GPC systems are calibrated using polystyrene standards because they're cheap, well-behaved, and widely available. The issue is that GPC doesn't measure absolute molecular weight, it measures hydrodynamic volume. And polymers like proteins, polysaccharides, and dendrimers have very different coil conformations compared to polystyrene. So a PS calibration curve can give misleading molecular weights for those materials. If absolute molecular weight is important, consider matching calibration standards to your polymer system, or upgrading to triple detection or light scattering. 4 involves the heart of the GPC system: the columns and flow conditions. Every column has an upper and lower molecular weight limit. Exceeding that limit is like trying to measure the length of a car inside a hallway built for bicycles. The measurement just doesn't make sense. Flow rate matters too. If the flow is too fast, you can shear high molecular weight chains. If it's too slow, peaks broaden and resolution suffers. That's why it's important to monitor your column's molecular weight range, maintain isocratic flow unless a method specifies otherwise, and track column back pressure weekly to catch degradation early. The fifth mistake is more subtle. It's about interpreting dispersity as just a number, instead of what it actually represents. Dispersity, or D, equals mW divided by mn, and tells us how broad the molecular weight distribution is. A dispersity of 1.08 might indicate a well-controlled polymerization, while a value like 3.5 for a supposedly living system might suggest dead chains, early termination, or other synthesis-related issues. Dispersity without context is just a statistic. With context, it becomes a window into the chemistry that produced the polymer. Bonus mistake: skipping system validation. Before trusting any molecular weight measurement, you should always verify the system using a control polymer with a known molecular weight. If your system reads that control polymer 20% off from its actual value, you can be confident your real samples will be off by a similar margin. A simple validation routine can prevent entire days of misleading data and greatly increase confidence in your results. When you avoid these common pitfalls, GPC becomes a powerful confirmatory tool rather than a confusing one. Good GPC practice involves choosing a solvent that fully dissolves the polymer, using proper filtration to protect the columns, matching calibration to the polymer chemistry, monitoring column performance, and interpreting data in the context of the synthesis mechanism. In other words, good GPC transforms your polymer from a mystery into a well-characterized material ready for real-world application. At the end of the day, GPC is a lot like interviewing your polymer, and good interviews require preparation. Avoid the 5 key mistakes we covered today, and you'll protect your columns, save time, and generate molecular weight data you can actually publish and trust. If you'd like a deeper dive into any of these topics, solvent selection, calibration, or advanced detection, let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to cover them in future videos.